I welcome Yaswanth on board, right? And a quick introduction about Yaswanth. So Yaswanth started his career with Anzy. Anzy Careers, I think most of you would know Anzy Careers is known for building a lot of good product recruiters out there in the market. When I joined Anzy, I think few months before Yaswanth left, right? But I've heard a lot of good things about Yaswanth when I joined Anzy, right? And then from there on, Yaswanth grew and he's worked with a lot of product companies like Ola, Traveloka, and then today he's with Slice. So if you look at the pattern, he has majorly worked with internet companies, right? So it's a pleasure to have someone like Yaswanth on board and to discuss about the career growth and his own story about how he grew in the recruiting world. So Yaswanth, I welcome you onto this platform.
Thank you so much, Yaswanth. Really excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, cool. Yep. So let's start this discussion with a very basic question, and that is more in line to your story, right? So let me start with one basic question. I think even you would ask this to any fresher recruiter. Are
Sure.
you a recruiter by chance or are you a recruiter by choice?
So, that's my LinkedIn status as well. I would say recruitment by choice only, right?
Okay.
HR is more like kind of because family, like I have a brother, like he's into engineering, and my mom said, no, I don't want two engineers in the family. I said, okay, I'll do MBA, no worries. But when I started my journey with Anzy, I think that's where I decided I think recruitment is like definitely my choice, and I want to be like a recruiter. Like, I really enjoyed being a recruiter.
Okay, amazing, amazing. So once you started your career with Anzy, I believe that's when you thought recruitment is your thing, right? So what is one instance or maybe two instances which made you feel, okay, this is my thing?
Sure. It's. I mean, recruitment. I think most of the people say that hey, choosing a right person, right time, all these technical clients. But it's more like I really enjoy doing those coaching. Most of the engineers, right? When I started, like I used to meet my sort of recruitment. At least the way that I was taught in ANSI is completely different. I used to meet people, understand their aspirations, what they want exactly. It's not just like numbers. It's not just about numbers. It's even beyond, right? It should also align with their career aspirations, where they want to see themselves. So all this kind of a homework, right? And then I directly send it to the client saying that, hey, maybe this is a guy and this is what he is looking for, and we should. That's how I used to maintain that kind of successful, right? Most of the impressing part is like people are not clear. I mean, they want to make a move. And why they want to make a move, I think most of the people lost there. And that's where we come as a talent coach. You help them, right? And you put them in the right direction. Like, yeah, dude, this is like most challenging job than anything else. It's not just coding or anything.
Exactly. So Yashwant made a very interesting point there. So if you look at what he said, what made Yashwant enjoy or maybe incline and start loving recruitment is that coaching part, right? Like most of us, I think I don't come from a top-notch engineering background. I think most of you sitting here do not come from an IIM or an IIT kind of a background. I think that part of coaching and consulting people from IIT or a BITS kind of a background who are at a 3x, 4x more salary than you, that part is what I believe is being missed by a lot of recruiters these days, right? So I think there's an assumption you pick a call, you do a normal calling, and then you get going. That coaching and consulting, because if you look at most of the recruitment agencies, the designation they'll give is consultant. But the point is, are you really a consultant, right? So now, can you just tell me? You said, okay, this changed the way you looked at recruitment. You started loving because of the coaching piece. So now this brings a question about how important do you think is the first job, right? Because I believe that sets the foundation, right? So how important do you think is the first job when you start your career?
I think definitely that plays a very important role. Either it will break or make things. I think that's where, at least in my experience, I got a very good clarity in how maybe H1 down the line should be, right? I think it definitely plays a very important role.
Yep, amazing, cool. So Yashwant, so from there on, when did you decide? I think you were with Anzy for 3, 4 years, right? When did you decide? Okay, it's time to move to the next journey and move to a product company as engineer. When is that? When is that did you decide?
Sure. I think most of the people don't really like that answer, but what happened typically when being in a consultancy, right? You get a very limited opportunity. You can't really get to know a lot of things what's happening internally, right? And I used to hear all these things saying that, hey, it's a deep vision, or maybe it's a cultural fitment issue. And I used to go back and ask, like, what do you mean by cultural fitment, right? And people are like, no, I can't discuss. And I was like, hey, it's my candidate. I met him personally and I do my assessment. He's definitely good. And I do a rough check. It's a personal interest. I go beyond it. It's not just basing it. And when people say that, no, I can't disclose, maybe the manager didn't like, then I was like, why can't you push him? Why can't you tell these data points? People used to be hesitant. They're like, no, I can't do it. Because the way you said, you just call and then like you're scared or maybe you're like worried that the person may not answer or maybe you might lose the kind of incentive. What it can be anything, right? Or maybe he's an IT guy and you're just a recruiter. I think that's the kind of notion I used to see even in the corporate recruiters, right? And there are very amazing recruiters, no doubt about it. I learned from them. And this keeps on annoying me saying that, no, why is this happening? No, understand the other side of the table. Being in 5 years with Anzy, right, working very closely with Deepak, have seen a lot of things, learned a lot of things. I was like, I want to understand the other side of the table now, right? Working with the stakeholders, doing those plannings. And I want to understand what it takes to make a successful closure. It's not just applying it to them and then like get those offer details and then follow up. Something else is missing, please. That's where my journey started with HackerRank.
Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to pick one question from what we just mentioned. You said what tickled you was, hey, cultural misfitment, right? So you don't get it why, right? When you're on the other side of the table, you don't understand.
Yes.
क्या हुआ यार? मतलब IIT का बंदा है, 8-pointer है, right? मतलब product companies में काम किया है, right? He's worked with good product companies. Now, what do you say cultural mismatch? Now, since you've gone on the other side of the table, can you help lot of us, right? Even I've never been on the other side of the table, right? I've never worked in a corporate, right? So even for me, I would like to understand what is this cultural fitment?
Sure. I think most of misunderstanding when it comes to culture fitment, right? Like maybe we take into like this guy is maybe expecting a lot more, be it in terms of the title or maybe be it in terms of compensation or maybe the kind of way he answers. A couple of things we also take into consideration. Not every day is a good day. Right? Like interviews happens technically good, and people say that no, he is not good with the way because he answers it, or he's shopping around in the market, or I don't feel that he will join us because his mind is not there in our company. Those are things are like, yeah, that can be fixed. You need to talk to him, understand what is it. And if you make an offer and if you say that he won't join you, I think then something wrong with me rather, right? I mean, if I'm making an offer, if I'm buying something, I should put my efforts to make sure that he's joining me, right? Lot of misconceptions when it comes to culture fit. It's a very vast word, I would say. People just use it. I think that's what most of the HMs or anyone I used to hear. But thankfully, the kind of companies I work with haven't come across many when I'm on the other side of the table.
Okay.
Since, yeah, lucky I've worked with very great managers, very good organizations, where these kind of things are very, very less.
Okay, cool. That's great, right? So now, when as a recruiter, how crucial is the relationship or the role of a hiring manager, please? Because you know that the relationship between hiring manager and the recruiter is a Tom and Jerry, right? So now, how crucial is this piece? I know it will make it or break it, right? So maybe can you just pull it out from your experience or maybe what you have seen with your recruiters with whom you would have mentored or in your team, right? So how crucial is this relationship?
So, sorry, if you can repeat, there is a slight lag. I lost you. The relation between the HM and then the recruiter.
Yeah, exactly. How crucial do you think it is, right? Because that will make it and break it, right? So, because many a times what I have heard is there are a lot of good hiring managers who value the recruiter, right? There are also hiring managers who I may not say, right? So, then how does the recruiter deal in that case?
We'll definitely talk about the good ones.
Yeah.
It's more like the more they involved in the hiring, it's as crucial as unless you get the complete understanding of the requirement, maybe the kind of, it's not just, okay, I'm looking for a Java developer or I'm looking only for a backend developer and that's it. HM job is not just saying that maybe your keywords or giving an understanding of the title or any other thing. It's mostly to understand maybe like what is the charter that they're going to work with, what is the expectation of the role, at what level that you're expecting. I think HM plays a very important role in end to end of the closure, I would say, like starting from job opening till the closure, it plays a very important role. Understand the quality of the process. Where is the bottlenecks? Try to say exception of weekly, right? And I think that also recruiter plays a role, like to make sure that your HM is well aware of the process, right? Like, maybe by giving a weekly update, or maybe like whenever there is a problem or maybe a bottleneck, highlight it to the HR. Like, make sure that he addresses to them. Most of the reasons, your interviewers don't come on time, or maybe they decline the last minute. Can you influence? Maybe yes, up to an extent, but your HM has to be there, right? And most of them will say that, okay, I have a support issue, right? So maybe I'm like doing some fixing, I can't join. No, your HM has to step in and then he has to help. He should always have your back.
So here, I think the recruiter plays the initial role of influencing the hiring manager and creating that value proposition, or so that the hiring manager can respect them, right? So I think the first push has to happen from a recruiter, the way they deal with, the way they go engage with the hiring manager, right? So the kind of questions they ask, right? The kind of probing they do it. I think that plays a very crucial role in terms of how you tackle it. I think it's more like first impression, right? When you're going for a date, right? So how the kind of first impression you create makes it or breaks it over a period of time, right? I think that plays a role. What do you say?
It definitely works both the ways. Yeah, it's not just HM. I think it also plays a very important role. How you inform or keep update your HM, right? Because most of the people think that my hiring is not happening because most of the people don't have a visibility. I think that's where a lot of gap or maybe disconnects. Right? But the moment the HM knows, hey, no, my recruiter is doing really good. Right? There's nothing wrong about him. And I'm talking to very quality people. I know why we are not able to convert, or maybe I know why we are able to make a lot of converts. So I think recruiter also equally have a very important role in terms of building a relationship with the HM.
Okay, cool. So yeah. So now you have worked with a lot of companies, which is mostly internet companies, right? So now, what different skill do you think a recruiter needs to nurture when they're moving from an agency to a corporate or to the product world, right? Now, I would maybe, to make it easy, maybe split it into two segments. One is an early stage startup, less than 50 employees, a slightly established startup. Now, I am an agency recruiter, right? And I believe you've worked with both the kind of companies, right? You've worked with slightly smaller companies, you've worked with companies which is more established companies, right? So now I'm an agency recruiter. I'm moving from an agency setup to a product company. So what is that a recruiter needs to nurture so that he would be able to perform well?
Sure, good question. The way I look at it, right, from my angle, mostly we lose like when it comes to the more of a corporate journey, right? Your strategy around it, right? I mean, your planning. When it comes to consultancy or something, you have like n number of opportunities, like with you, right? It can be your multiple clients or anything. Definitely, even in consultancy, we do a lot of data mining under, but not as clear as like when it comes to an internal recruiter, right? Because that's very role specific, team specific. Doing those budgets, planning, right? I think those are the kind of pieces what it telling us. But I strongly recommend anyone, irrespective of where you are at, right? I think those kind of a data-driven approach is what definitely makes you take a stand among other crowd. I think that's definitely which at least I have missed initially. Then that's what I used to learn, like by looking at more leaders. I think definitely your training helped a lot, like during those analytic days. So I think that's definitely, at least in my opinion, that's what makes a lot of difference.
So what you made is a very valid point, because when you're working in an agency, your value addition is more in terms of joinees. Kitne joinee hai, right? So you can create a joinee. You have 5 companies, right? That you can process it in A, B, C, D, E, any of it, as long as you get joinees. But here, the value proposition you bring is going to impact the business. So maybe if I have to put in one word what Yaswanth said, I would say the word is empathy. Right? If I have to use it one word to what Yaswanth just mentioned, you need to be more empathetic towards the business and towards the hiring managers which you're working with, because you cannot say कि भाई ये company नहीं तो कहीं और place कर देंगे. You don't have the option anymore. Right? So that's where the planning and how empathetic you are with the hiring manager makes the difference. Right? So that comes with experience, right? Once you move from an agency to
absolutely. Yeah. I think one standard question, right, is most of the people even say that, okay, how do you build maybe these many people given the timeline? Most of the people, like maybe from a consultancy, right, ask me about to close 100 positions in a month. I can do it because I have different options, different organizations for me to fulfill, right? But when it comes to corner the case, saying that, okay, now within the company, now I want to maybe build a data science team. Now, how you are going to do it? What are the strategies that you come up with, right? Maybe what is the data mapping that you get? Definitely, I think most of the people will have that. Right? It's like, no, maybe they come up with like ideas, but it can't be at the strategic side of it, or maybe a data-driven approach. How you present it, how you think about the users, everything matters when it comes to the maybe internal in-house recruiter.
Cool. Now, there is a big buzz which it goes around when with regards to fan companies, right? And even today, recruiters have this inclination towards where do you want to go, where do you see yourself after 3 years, 5 years, working for Google, Microsoft, Facebook, right? So how do you see this, right? So is this the goal which a recruiter needs to have? Like, let's say today I'm a 2 year or 3 year or maybe a 5 year experienced recruiter. I could be working in a mid-size startup or maybe in an agency or even in a companies like Infosys, TCS. Should my goal be more centric towards fan companies, or what would you suggest?
Uh, sure. Okay. What I would suggest is definitely should be more focused towards the learning, the kind of growth opportunities, the kind of scope that you can. In a fan, your role is going to be more domain specific, or I mean, there is nothing wrong to be in, right? But what you're going to do there, I mean, only just maybe closing some security interest for certain platform, and then how long, right? But be it in a startup or maybe mid-size, right, or maybe early companies, what will happen? You get an opportunity to build yourself, to upskill your profile. You also grow along with the company. You tend to get an opportunity where multiple hats within the recruitment itself, right? Maybe for campus, for example, take a campus. Can you run a campus drive like maybe in a fan companies? Right? Being as an orator, definitely no. They have their own platform. They have their own vertical of the campus. Then where is that learning is going to be? I think, in my opinion, maybe you should settle in a fan company, maybe in 15, 20 years of experience. I think where you start overseeing it, like where you start working in a geolocation, geographic, understand different markets. I think that could be my suggestion. Till then, at least till 10 years, I think you should get your hands dirty as much as you can, learn as much as you can, right? And don't restrict yourself to a specific domain, or maybe say that, and I'm a non-tech recruiter or I'm a tech recruiter. It's a recruitment. That's how I look at it. Right? So I think that I would suggest strongly. Be more learning focused.
Okay, cool. So I'll tell you one of the stories which I heard, right? So I heard a story from one of a recruiter who is like 8-10 years of experience recruiter, right? And I'm not taking the name, right? So this guy is a pretty famous recruiter, but this person keeps juggling around with a lot of solutions, okay? And he was approached by one of the fan companies. And you know the reason why he rejected the fan company, he did not even take up the interview, he said, "Boss, you guys have so many processes. I am someone who keeps juggling around with so many things, so many tools, because you know today the number of tools out there in the market, right? So I'm someone who keeps love to deal with a lot of tools and keep experimenting. But if you have to do this with a fan company, the number of approvals and stuff which you have there, I can't do it. So I can't be myself." Right? So he backed out from even taking an interview. So if you're someone who is more exploring, or more of a hustler who loves juggling around, and then I don't think fan companies. Then I would suggest the next stream. I think maybe Yaswanth will also agree with me. Today, one side is fan companies, and I was talking to one of the recruiters from fan companies. He said, "We don't hire people from certain set of companies." He said, because one, they are paid more than fan.
Of course.
So I asked this recruiter, "Why do you think these recruiters are paid more than FANG?" Now, when I'm saying this, some recruiters must be thinking, are there companies who are paying more than FANG? I think Yaswanth will do it, right? So there are companies which are paying more than FANG. So now when I was,
absolutely,
yeah, right? So when I was checking with this recruiter, he was saying, yeah, there's a reason. He said, look, Google or Microsoft kind of a company, maybe if you delay the hiring, or maybe you did not hire that quarter, will we shut shop? They will not shut shop. But any company which is growing rapidly now, right, with a lot of money and all that, they have to close it immediately. So they would bet on best of the recruiters, right? So then in that case, they will put more money on best of the recruiters, right? So then maybe people who are considering towards fan company, you need to reconsider and look for those names, right, of those companies which are paying more than FANG. But when I say that they're paying more than FANG, the quality also needs to be top notch, right? So yeah, right. Coming to the quality, I would like to check with Yashwanth. Today, if you're hiring in your team, right, which obviously Yashwanth is hiring. If someone wants to reach out, you can reach out to Yashwanth. Yashwanth is hiring some recruiters at Slice. If you guys are looking out, you can reach out to Yashwanth. Okay, so now you are hiring. Now, let's say, for example, what is your approach towards hiring, right? You're hiring recruiters in your team, tech recruiters, right? So do you look at, let's say, a separate sourcing team separately, or you look at a separate person who does after sourcing, or you look at like, no, recruiter needs to do both? How do you look at it?
Oh, I look for a kind of contributors, right, who can own that ship. It's not like kind of now you don't do a sourcing, someone else will do it. You only do a calling, and someone else will do a. In my team, people do end to end of it, and that is my expectation even from a recruiter. You can't limit yourself. I mean, sourcing is a bone. I mean, it's a soul of the recruitment, right? If you lose sourcing, then what is the fun? If you can't headhunt, if you can't try to identify that kind of a diamond, then why recruitment? Right? And same time, you find that, and then you're not able to convert. I think everything is a process improvement. I think every piece has to be there in a recruiter. It can be only for sources and all. But yes, I'm happy to hire a sources if they're in the beginning of their career. They want to learn. I think sourcing is the best way to start it. You start learning the profile. You start understanding why this profile is getting sorted. Why it's getting. To answer your question, I'm looking for an end-to-end recruiter.
Okay, now you said that. Now let me go to a little more specifics, right? So let's say if someone comes and you're taking an interview, what are the top 3 things you look before you get them to your team? Before you say this is the guy.
Sure. One, the passion. Like maybe like typical standard question, like why you end up here, right? Given an opportunity, what you will do? Like, will you go back or do you stay there? The passion is definitely important for me. Selling, how good you are at sales. No point if you can't convert. You are maybe not good at conversion, right? As a good pitch for that case. And then on the attitude. And there will be a lot of feedbacks that as a recruiters we get, right? And a lot of pushback, a lot of strong defense, right? Your attitude is what either make you strong or like break you completely out from the company, right? So these are the top 3 things that I look for in any recruiter. Everything rest can be tried, in my opinion. At least it worked in my mantra.
Amazing, cool. Okay, now let's come to, you said like if you're hiring a junior recruiter, you don't mind hiring someone who's good at sourcing because it starts from sourcing, right?
Sure.
Now there's a lot of buzz in the market about these terms. I call it machine learning. Before 5 years, which was a buzz, this is the X-ray, Stack Overflow, GitHub kind of a buzz. So do you validate recruiters based on these buzzwords of GitHub, Stack Overflow, X-ray?
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I have interviewed a lot of candidates. At the end, people are at least like happy to share those feedbacks that it's one of the best interview experiences that they have. I never judge based on whether you know the GitHub. I will put that same question right now. How many recruiters are actually closing through those tools?
Same here.
Right? So, I don't believe it.
Yeah, because unfortunately there are a lot of places where these are the prime questions. The first round of interview has sourcing, and when you talk about sourcing, they ask, tell me something different, right? Different sourcing, right? I'm like, come on. And so if someone asks me, what do we do when an interviewer is asking this question, I tell them, ask the interviewer, in last 1 year, how many positions you closed through GitHub Stack? Right?
Amazing. Sure.
So
valid question to ask.
Yeah, so it's amazing to know that Yashwanth looks for the fundamentals than these buzzwords. I think a lot of the recruiters who are listening would get an answer. These words are more of a buzzwords. Get your strategy right in terms of pool building, in terms of a lot of fundamentals in place. I think that would help you, right? And that's what Yashwanth person is also looking for. Your passion, your selling skill, right? Now today, let me put this question to Yashwanth. Today, Yashwanth, what do you think is the value of storytelling or selling? Don't you think that's a $1 million skill?
Absolutely. Why not? I think recruiters definitely should have that skill.
Yep, right.
That's what makes you successful.
Now, with your experience, how many percentage of recruiters, with whatever you've looked at, interviewed, how many percentage of recruiters do you think have that attitude towards selling and storing out of 100?
We're in a recruiter channel, and then you are asking.
Yeah,
So,
no,
it's in.
I'm someone who's very blunt with recruiters, right? I tell them, boss, you need to improve
I know
this.
that. Yeah, of course, absolutely. Unfortunately, I will keep it as 20%, Ashok. Like,
Hmm.
there are very good people, but a lot of people actually get along with the tag. No, I'm a recruiter. I have those these many positions. Okay, now let's take a step back. How did you do that? Now, why someone should join your organization, right? Maybe why not something else? People actually like break. I mean, they just going with the flow when it comes to the storytelling or maybe sell me this opportunity. Yeah, unfortunately, I have not seen. It's like 20% of out of 100 what it is. I'm not sure if you feel more or if you feel that's like too high. I'll leave it to you, but 20.
So yeah. Anyways, we get the ballpark number there, which means there are less number of recruiters who with good storytelling abilities. That means that's the $1 million skill which recruiters needs to work towards, right? And that's what leaders like Yashwanth and a lot many others are looking forward to today. You can be an amazing sourcer, you can know good tech, but what if you cannot put it out? You cannot create stories, then that's not adding value, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So okay, maybe Ishwant, just one question around this again the storytelling piece. Any example from your experience? Maybe you met a recruiter, you felt, dude, this guy is pretty cool with storytelling. And I don't want to name you to a recruiter and all. Maybe that story, maybe something you can relate to. Maybe that recruiter said this, or maybe the way he presented, he or she presented that captured your mind shell. One story from your storytelling.
Sure, definitely. I think there are quite a few. Maybe I'll name it. Like typically, one of the questions that I go with, right? I give you a case study there, saying that hey, maybe this is the kind of new thing which I'm trying to form. Can maybe like at a high level pitch, maybe I can hire from anywhere in the world. And we are the first time that in India that we are doing it. Now, how do you come up with it, right? Now, why someone should join? Maybe, for example, if I'm hiring from a world talent, right? Now, that kind of a talent, right, they should maybe join maybe a startup or maybe that XYZ company, right? The way they present it, right? Or maybe the kind of thought process that they bring on the table. There is one of the recruiter recently, right? Like, it was like, to hire those people, the way he given me the complete chart, right? Your interview should be exceptionally good because you're hiring a world class talent, then the experience has to be in the world class, right? You can't just ask them to do a hackathon test. I mean, no offense in terms of you can't do a typical coding challenge and then give the data set of algorithm France, right? I was really amazed. And given it's a remote, now what else that you can think of? He also came up with a possible option saying that you should hire those maybe a fan kind of women talent who are actually on a break and where they are trying to resume. And because they still have a baby, I think they actually prefer this more. And we are not losing on that quality. You're getting the fan talent, elite organizations, and everything, right? And third, that they have given like most of the people love to do this YouTubing, right? Or the maybe kind of film design. We should try them because most of the people actually sacrifice their weekends to give back to the society. In fact, you say maybe you can do a 3 days work week and the rest of the 2 days they can do whatever they want. Now, I think that's the kind of passion people. I think the way he described and then give me the kind of strategy, starting from opening the job rec, defining the interview process, hunting those kind of talent, and then till the closure, mind blown.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, so I think if people who are hearing this out, right? So the story which Ashwin was talking about, one of the recruiters he met, the way the plan he was giving was different from majority of the recruiters out there, right? So when you're chalking out a plan, how are you chalking out? Is your plan similar to what any other recruiter will speak out, or you have something different? And when we say different, it should be again logical, right? You cannot speak something.
I think true. Whatever that he has actually raised, it makes total sense.
Yep, yep,
And we
yep.
are able to hit the number. No
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, so this is where the today's internet companies, the reason why today's internet companies are willing to pay you more than fan companies is because of this, right? What Ishwan was just mentioning his experience with one of the recruiters. If you can be someone who will have a slightly different way of thinking, right, and different way of planning in terms of your TA, I think that's what people like Ishwan and lot many others who are hiring for internet companies would look forward to, right? Cool. Now, one more question which I
Sure.
have, Yaswanth, is recruiters like have this tendency, यार मेरी salary अभी 4 लाख की है, या maybe मेरी salary 6 लाख की है, right? they have a goal towards my salary should be 20 lakhs in next 3 years, 2 years. Is this the right approach to have key working towards your compensation numbers? Key was today it's my number is this. I want to get this, right? So is it a right approach to look at?
Would be neutral. I won't say that you should be more money driven when you're trying to build your career or like when you're trying to make a move. Look more from an opportunity. I think your work should talk more, and I'm sure money will follow. Rather than you keep money as a driving factor. See, it's as simple as that. The more you get, the more expectations will go. And if you are expecting some unrealistic number, I think you will be the first person to take a hit if something goes wrong with the organization. Right? I would say it should be more of a talent-based, skill based, like what role that you are going to play, and then get accordingly. And you should get internal promotions or maybe done. You should never say no to it because that's a hard-earned money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're paying because they have seen your skill and all. So I would say more than money, I think they should focus more on the skill, opportunity that they're going to get. 1 or 2 lakhs will get it anywhere easily.
Exactly. So yeah, so this is majorly for the junior recruiters because generally junior recruiters tend to incline more from a context of the, compensation, right? And so as Yaswanth rightly mentioned, you need to look at the opportunity which you have in that company over a period of time. Down the line, 3 months or 6 months, what opportunity? And Yaswanth rightly mentioned, if you're getting internal growth in the same company, it's amazing because you already know the culture of the company, you know how things work, right? You see that around you. And if you move just for a few lakhs, right, and then maybe you end up in a bad culture, right? So that yeah, right. So that goes for a toss, right? Cool. So yeah, so Matlab, this is it from my end in terms of my discussion, whatever I wanted to have with Yaswanth, just to get a good understanding from him and his journey, right? I would open the chat forum. If anyone has any questions, if you can use the chat forum and post it on the chat, right? Don't you need not use the mic. You can probably quickly use the chat window and shoot out some questions. We'll take it one by one. You have any questions around career growth, maybe planning your career, how do you shape your career, moving from agency to product, anything around these lines? If you have any questions, if you can shoot it out, I think Yaswanth will answer that, and I believe that will help you in your career. Should we focus on one particular tech stack? Should we focus on one particular tech stack? So yeah, so I'll frame this question a little more, right? So I am someone who talks about SMEs, right? I believe building SMEs, right? Subject matter experts, right? Because my thought process is like this. Whenever I have spoken to recruiters and interviewed recruiters, I ask them, what kind of hiring you do? Sub tech hiring karta hu main. Every tech hiring. And I'm like, yeah, if you're jack of all trades, you're not going to be master, right? So I think if you can be an SME in one particular tech stack, the rest you can anyways do, yeah, right? Because you know the fundamentals, what is backend, what is front end, and all that. Right? You know it. Right? You should be able to do it, and as long as you're selling and all of that. But by being an SME, what happens is your market intelligence is more broader, and you know what kind of tech questions to validate over a period of time, right? After spending 2 months, 3 months on one particular tech stack, you know how to drill down a particular techie, what questions you can ask, how do you engage, and last but not the least is network building, right? Like for example, you talk to only backend developers or only QA people. After 2 years, you look at your LinkedIn, it will not be a khichdi, right? Today, most of the people who have a LinkedIn is a khichdi, right? It's a mix of recruiter, marketing person, front end, back end testing, right? It's a history. But if you look at it after 1 year, it will be filled with 2,000 back end developers or maybe 2,000 front end developers. So that's how I look at it. Maybe I would like to take a perspective from Yaswanth.
You answered perfect. I'm completely aligned with that, Yaswanth. I strongly believe that.
It's because
I think HD part, no doubt about it. You look at the LinkedIn, it's mix of everything.
Yeah, so I think you also spoke about coaching candidates in the early part of your career, right? So that is one of the best things today, and that is what will help you grow. And if you are someone who's a master in a particular tech stack, you know it. You will be able to say, why are you working on an old framework?
Absolutely. Yeah.
How would you know it if you're not an SME? Right? Because Yaswanth was mentioning about coaching. You cannot coach if you're not an SME, right? Or else you'll be that recruiter who is like Spring kitna rating karo 10 pe, right? Java rating out of 10 or database rating out of 10, right? So, that recruiter you shouldn't be, right? So I think what Yaswanth was mentioning in terms of coaching candidates, that is possible only by being an SME, right? Cool. Now we have a few more questions
Lot of questions.
on how you have upskilled. Okay, give us more insights on how you have upskilled yourself in recruitment. Nice question.
Sure. Cool. Komal, so my way of upskill, right? I learned from my mistakes mainly, right? I mean, being from a consultancy agency and then coming into a corporate, uh, definitely it's a roller coaster, right? Because the way I used to work versus the way the company expect you to work, everything I used to observe, like maybe how is the organization working on, right? Maybe for example, if I'm losing on something like why am I, it's mostly like observing things and learning from the best people. So far, I have very best managers I work with till date, getting insights from them. And I don't hesitate like to ask. I mean, if I don't know something, I'll definitely go back and do it. Because I'm so senior, I don't mind going back and then asking for it. Learn, understand.
Nice. So, yeah. So the next question is, how can recruiters move from being tactical to strategic?
Data. Your data talks a lot. Whatever that you do, make sure you have a data to prove that. Tactical is more like you say that I can do anything. Strategy says that okay, only you can do this. That can only happen when you have an ample of data, market understand what is happening around you. So as simple as that.
So someone says, suggest me tools for sourcing. So, malab, I would say this key. Malab, maybe are you using any best tools out there at Slice or maybe something which, based on your best practices, you would like to suggest?
If people are good at even Naukri, you can close position.
Yeah, I love Yaswanth right there, right? So, Naukri and LinkedIn काफी है, right? Yeah, so I align with Yaswanth.
Well,
Yeah, because LinkedIn itself by default, right? If you're doing internet hiring, has abundance of data, right? One simple thing which I would like to add, since even Yashwant mentioned कि Naukri and LinkedIn would do, uh, I keep saying in my sessions, more than 60% of data on LinkedIn is not touched by recruiters. Right? I say this. The reason is most of the recruiters started with job boards like Naukri, and then we moved on to LinkedIn kind of a platform.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Now, when we search on Naukri, how we would have searched? We would have put 4 or 5 skills in the search, right? Angular, JavaScript, jQuery, Ajax, UI, and all that. We put it and we search it. We used to get data because we are searching on a platform which has minimum 2 pages of resume, right? 1 to 2 pages of resume. But when you come on LinkedIn, the data point is less than 20-30% people write detailed profiles, right? Majority of the people write 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, and you put that boolean here or the search query, you are missing out on data. So there's one amazing video which is already posted on the platform, which is called as Dark Matter, right? I think recently it was posted on the platform. You would find it in the library of the sourcing group, right? You will find this. So this is a event which was done 5 years back in US, and only few thousand recruiters have viewed it. Only some 10-12,000. I'm amazed, right? So this talks about dark matter. It talks about how recruiters misses out on a lot of data set. This was I think a SourceCon kind of an event or something which was done 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I think recruiters should watch that and see what kind of a data they miss out on. Right? Cool. And next question is, how to control the interview process? How to control the interview process to showcase the best of myself?
Is it like when you're giving an interview, or?
Yeah, it is about the interview. That's what I believe. How to control interview process to showcase the best of myself. So yeah, interview.
So I assume you are giving an interview and you wanna understand how you can show best of yourself, right? One good advice as a recruiter, yes, we are very good at storytelling, but when it comes to interview, don't oversell yourself.
Mm.
Talk about what you have done, how you have done, and be very clear about your thoughts. Why you have done this, why not this, and talk about your failures and how you learn. I think that's what keeps you as a best. Most of the people actually, like in my experience so far, right, I feel like people do oversell and then say I've done this because they observe a lot of things around them, right? And then say I've done this. When you deep dive, they don't even have those insights of why I have taken this decision, why not this. So to answer, don't be as good as storytelling. If you're really good at like when it comes to interview, you should be very clear with the data. So don't oversell. Talk only about what you have done. Be genuine.
Maybe a right cocktail of data and storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a data, you can pitch anything. That's like you build a rocket and you went to Mars. But if you don't know anything about it, don't even think of Elon. So,
okay, now comes an interesting question. You are on the receiving end with this question, Yaswanth. So the question says, what is the difference between agency recruiter? Why do product companies don't hire from service recruiters?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you experienced this? Maybe no. Do people have any different opinion there? I think what even Ashwak was asking before, right? Will I give those like sources or maybe like kind of calling and then someone else? I think in mostly service organization, I think it's mostly scattered the roles, right? I mean, it's very like specific. You only do a sourcing, you only maybe do a calling, and then maybe you do the background check, and then you release the offer. When you try to go in a product, you're expected to do the end to end. You're a full stack recruiter, right? I think that's where the skills are getting mismatched. I'm assuming it, but at least in my career, I have not said to anyone if they're coming from a service organization. It's mostly based on the skill. If they're learned and if they're out of the box thinking, happy to learn. This is very big.
So this is talks about career gaps. Career gaps in recruiter life. Will those career gaps play a big difference in the career? While will companies entertain recruiters with career gaps?
Yeah, I do entertain. I mean, I don't see anything wrong in terms of having a career gap, right? But we try to understand like, why there is a gap, and most of the people have a genuine reasons.
Okay. The next one is just a copy pasted. I think to make it easy, that person has copy pasted all the questions so far. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure, got it.
Okay. Can you suggest some strategies which we can adopt in terms of stakeholder management?
Sorry, come again.
Can you help us understand some strategies which we can adapt for stakeholder management?
Sure. Again, I think I talk a lot on the data because I think that's what plays a very important role. When it comes to your stakeholder management, your stakeholder only expect those kind of a progress. What is happening around, right? And most of the people are missing on those lines. Strategy comes, make sure you have a syncs with your manager. Make sure you're giving a valid data information. If you're closing, what it makes to be a successful closing. If you're not able to, what is happening? At least identify those bottlenecks. Raise a concern. Don't wait for your maybe a weekly thing to happen and then say, hey, maybe I'm just waiting for your schedule to happen so that I can talk about it, right? Be more proactive. I think these things will definitely help in terms of a greater bonding with your stakeholders. Anything we do, make sure you have a data to present, data to represent your statement. Like we just say, hey, I'm not able to hire because market is super competitive. That's, I think, one standard answer I keep on hearing it, right? Now, okay, what is market competitive you mean? Okay, market is paying more. Okay, who are all those paying more? Do that mapping, have the data to present it, and then see if there is anything can be done. So there are a lot of bottlenecks. We have to identify, address it. Be more proactive than your stakeholder comment back what is happening with them. And that happens most of the time. Your HM will come and ask you like, what is happening?
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll take one last question. This is the one last question. So it says the current market has been crazy. What advice would you give to recruiters on how to sustain or continue?
We are also getting adapted. The way things have gone recently, I think it's crazy. But one thing, Komal, I think even my team is pretty much aligned. No matter what, how crazy it is, your hiring need is same, right? I mean, I'm only looking for a person who believes in the company, who believes in the vision, and they want to be part of it, right? And no one hates money. I think when you say market being crazy, I think mainly we are talking about the numbers, right? I mean, it's not about number of opportunities. It's mostly on the numbers. So money should be one of the priority, but that shouldn't be the only reason for people to join in any organization. So still believe if you are offering someone or if you're interviewing someone, why is this person is talking to you? Is he aligned with the company vision? I think that's more important. And I think numbers we can match. That shouldn't be a problem. But that shouldn't be the only priority.
Yep.
I think that's what flies one price. We are good at drop. We are maintaining 1:2.
Oh, amazing. Then maybe your numbers will also be good.
That should come as a side gig. It shouldn't be that.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, so
Sure.
that's it. We wrap it. I think thanks a lot to Yaswanth for tuning in, for giving his time to the community, right? So yeah, thanks a lot, Yaswanth, for coming here, for sharing your views and how you have grown, your stories about your growth and how recruiters can shape their careers, right? There's a lot many things which we learned, and also we learned on the other side of the table, which even I have not been on the other side of the table. Right? So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Ashok. Really enjoyed.